Who's new here, and of course to those of you who are back again, great to have you here. Bitcoin is currently trading at 104,870 US dollar. In this video we will take a look together at possible scenarios for the price development of Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP and Solana. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. So let's begin with Bitcoin. We have said about Bitcoin up here that we have to break the 110,300 US dollar to the upside to get a new all-time high, and we have chart patterns which are going to tell us where the all-time high is going to go. But we have also said if we break to the downside right here, and this here is more important, then we should drop to 106,500 US dollar. Here's the price tag. I have removed all the price tags before this video, so everything looks better. But what you can see is we had two targets directing us into the 106,000 US dollar. So let me take this one out. We have predicted that pretty good. I want to keep that horizontal. So what I thought was that we should see the 106,000. Okay, we did it. But I have also drew you that here I want to see a push to the upside and then breaking the 106,500 US dollar to the upside, then I would be long. We didn't break the 106,500 US dollar afterwards, so I can't be long. For sure, I can always jump into a speculative long position, but you can see what already happened. We sold off. So currently, I think that a down move is not done yet. I think that we are in a rising wedge, which is a corrective up move. If we go into the 15 minutes chart, then you are going to see it. Step by step, we are getting up. And once we break that chart pattern to the downside, then I think that this is not going to be our target. I have the feeling that we should see the area maybe even 97,000 to 98,000 US dollar retesting again, because we have our red trend lines on the chart. Those red trend lines, the first one got a huge break to the downside, but here we already see some weakness. And if we break the rising wedge to the downside, and I will give you now the price mark, 104,560 US dollar, then the chance is very high that we are going to break the red trend line again. And if we break the red trend line again to the downside, then we should fish those fair value gaps. This one here, and I think this big one here. And I personally think that we are going to go for the lower fair value gap, which is far bigger than the one before. So how can this turn out? Yeah, I know I have to be a bit bullish, and yes, I have found something. So basically, that's why I went into the 4-hour chart. We are bearish on the short term, but on the midterm, push to the upside, small pullback, push to the upside, small pullback, push to the upside, small pullback. So this whole up move was impulsive. Afterwards, push to the upside and then a consolidation within a bull flag. So even if we get into that area, we can still get a new all-time high, but I think that's going to be our last push for Bitcoin. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to continue this uptrend. I think afterwards we should see a huge correction, which can even get us far lower than the previous all-time high at 75,000 US dollar. So I think last push for Bitcoin should income in the next maybe 1 month, 2 months. We have to see. But everything looks still good to me. And in my opinion, what I would like to see to have a perfect setup afterwards is that we break to the downside, get a push to the downside into the first fair value gap, which is going to be also support of the bull flag. Then I want to see a bounce, and in the next week getting into the support box. We have seen it already that the area between 98,000 to 97,000 US dollar is going to be a huge support for us. Here it is huge resistance. Here it was huge resistance. Here as well. Here it was support twice. And we have predicted this top here very well, where we have said if we get into that area, then we should see a pullback, and we saw one. So I think that once we get into the 97,000 to 98,000, that we should see a push to the upside. But we have to see if this push is going to be a very impulsive one, which also breaks the bull flag to the upside, or if this push is just going to be a small correction and then we are going to lose the bull flag to the downside and can even reach for lower prices, and maybe we already have seen our bull market top. But so far everything looks good to me. So what about Ethereum? So Ethereum looks to me that we have a bear flag at the moment. So Bitcoin was in a rising wedge, bearish pattern, bear flag, also bearish. So it looks like that we are going to break it to the downside. The typical target of the bear flag is the length of the sell-off, which we have before. We put it then to the breakout point, target 2,200 US dollar for Ethereum. Do I think that we are going to get there? Maybe, and I don't want to trade this bear flag, but what I would like to trade is this red trend line. So if I see the red trend line breaking to the downside, then I think yes, because we have here a fair value gap between 2,250 US dollar to 2,222 US dollar, and we have more fair value gaps down below us. I have it somewhere on the right side. Yes, you can see it. There are fair value gaps, huge ones. If we go into the 4-hour chart, then you are going to see it. If we are going to the 8-hour chart, then you are going to see it. So Ethereum did a huge push, which you can see right here. We have formed, I would even say, one big fair value gap, and this should get closed. And afterwards we have to see if this is just going to be the local low for this push. So if we lose the $2,412, then I would jump into a short trade, because I think then we can get into the fair value gaps very fast. And yeah, this can be a short-term profitable trade. I can even try to get into my first position once we lose the purple box, which is at 2,466 US dollar, because we have seen it already in the past that this was support. So if we lose it, sustainable, then I can even enter the short trade a bit earlier. I can also delay the rising wedge in bright blue, because we met the target. We were hoping that we are going to get some support. Here are the circles, we should drop there. And there I wanted to see support, means a push. But we didn't get a bounce. We broke to the downside and even retested an old support, which is then resistance. So I think that even if we get a bounce in the purple box and we are going to get into the fair value gaps, afterwards I still think that we should sell off, if we don't sell off now. So what about XRP? I think it's also well predicted, because we have said that we have in bright blue a rising wedge, broke to the downside, got its retest. Then we have said in yellow double top pattern. Broke to the downside, got its retest. So this was very well predicted. We just had one mistake. So my mistake was that I had a white trend line on the chart where I've said if it breaks to the upside, then we have a good chance pushing into the $2.27 to $2.28 in that area here, because there is a fair value gap. We got a small push, a very weak one. I don't even want to name it as a push. That's why I want to delete it. Yeah. If I predict something very good and I highlight it in my video, then I'm also going to highlight what I did wrong. So let me first delete the old chart patterns which worked. Let's see which chart pattern can work in the future as well. And I think we have to go into the 50 minutes chart because everything is short-termed right now. So this looks to me like a rectangle. If it breaks to the downside, and it looks like that we are going to break it to the downside, $2.12.5, then we should see the $2.08. So this rectangle is just an orientation for me. I'm not going to trade it because this is a very small pattern. It's not worth it to risk my money. And we can also see, because we are on a smaller time frame, fake outs which can even lead us into losses. So that's why I don't want to trade this chart pattern. But what I like to trade is if we break the $2.08 to the downside. If we move out of the chart, zoom out, maybe you can see it. If not, I will help you out. Head and shoulders formatation. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So if we lose the $2.08, the target, and I always take the less bearish target, which is the length of one shoulder, and I have picked the right shoulder because the right shoulder is a bit smaller than the left one. You can see it, yeah, there is a small wick over it. Anyway, the length of the right shoulder, we put it to the breakout point. Target is going to be the $1.83. Will I keep my trade, my short trade, once we break to the $2.08 to the downside? Will I keep that trade into the last cent? No, because we have here a fair value gap, which we have on the chart, I think, since 2 weeks. And we have talked about it already, that this can be our target once we break certain support to the downside. And we have already seen the weakness. We had here two red trend lines, which should indicate a sell-off into the $1.92 to $1.86. With the chart pattern, with the head and shoulders formatation breaking to the downside at $2.08. I have at least, I don't want to say some evidence, but I have a chart pattern with a direction a bit lower than the fair value gap. So I think the fair value gap is going to get closed once we break the $2.08 to the downside. And if you think that this is not possible, because from the $2.08, it would be still 7% to 10%, I can show you what we have done since 48 hours in minus 10% push to the downside. So a sell-off of minus 10% is common. It's normal. We are in crypto space. If you can't handle it, then maybe stocks are better for you because they are moving a bit slowlier, but they can also move very fast. Look at Tesla, for example. Anyway, I think my target is going to be the fair value gap, and afterwards we have to see. Maybe we have taken all the liquidity because we don't have any kind of fair value gaps lower than that. And the next stop losses, which are to fish, are lower than the low here. And I think this is going to be a bit too bearish if we sell off from our current price another 30%. Can also happen. Just look at here. I think this is 40%. Even 48%. So it's normal that this can happen. But I still expect that we should fill the fair value gap at $1.86 to $1.93, I think it was. Yeah, around about that number. Afterwards, I want to see this kind of push, but I want to see some chart patterns developing over the time for XRP. So this looks messy now. We will break it down first on the smaller time frame. So on the smaller time frame, you can already see it, the bear flag, 144 US dollar and 40 cents. If it breaks to the downside, this is just an orientation. Then we should drop to 139 US dollar and 75 cents. There we have support. I have already told you that once we break the $152.50 to the downside, then we should see the target of the rectangle again. And we went perfectly into that target. I have told you, if you are longer on my channel, rectangles are unique. This was here the rectangle. We broke it to the upside. We also got to the target to the upside. We even overshot it. But the target to the downside is still ongoing. And we went there. So I can take this one out from the chart now. So what I want to see is, we have to go into the 1 hour chart. So what I want to see is getting slowly and bullish divergence in the chart. Because, and we will go into the 4 hour chart very soon, then you will see it. I want to see one last push to the downside, getting the RSI with a higher low. And afterwards, I want to see a breakout in the RSI. And if I get this kind of chart development, then I would even say this can be even really positive. Because, let's jump into the 4 hour chart. If we slowly build up bullish divergences, then the chart is telling me that even if we don't break it to the upside, that for a short moment we have the chance for a bullish outcome, and the market wants to get more bullish. And you can already see it in the chart that we had in the past, even from this downtrend up here, this downtrend. This was a falling wedge. You can see it right here. Lower lows in the chart. From here. Higher highs in the chart. Sorry, higher lows in the chart. We broke the structure to the downside with this push here. But afterwards, this was still a bullish divergence. So I want to see some kind of this chart development, because the target is still ongoing. $207 for Solana. We didn't invalidate that target yet, and we can even drop down to 120 US dollar, and we wouldn't invalidate that chart target, that chart pattern target. So we also have here in orange a rising wedge which broke to the downside. Target is ongoing, 132 US dollar, and I see Solana getting there. Also with the bear flag, it's going to tell me with a higher chance we are going to get into the $132.25. But you can already see it in bright blue. This chart pattern is not active yet. I'm still waiting for it, but I still put it on the chart to just have an orientation. This can develop as a falling wedge, which we afterwards break to the upside. And yes, the lower trend line, I can also change it over the time. That's why I want to keep it like that. And I would change it in the future once we get a lower low. But as long as we don't get it, I will still keep it on the chart. And yeah, that's what I think. And if we break it to the upside, and we just take the falling wedge which we have right now, $209 US dollar. Then we have two chart patterns directing us into a new top for Solana. Yeah, I'm not talking about the tops on your left, I'm talking about the top right here, over that one. So, that's why I don't want to scare anyone with the 132 US dollar and 25 cents. We still can have a bullish outcome and can even overshoot the tops from there. So I hope that I gave you some valuable informations with my video today, and we will see each other in the altcoin update.